candidates would look to move for a role for £1,000 or £2,000. Now it's 10,000. As soon as one person moves, you have to replace them, and that just keeps going. I think when it comes to actually negotiating the salaries, I think you have to be transparent.
Have you seen any skills in particular that were, or skills or sectors where candidates are particularly in a strong position? Welcome to Talent Conversations. I'm very pleased to be welcoming James Madders from Cass&X, and we're going to be talking about salary negotiations. Hi, James.
Hi there.
So how's the landscape changing in 2024 in terms of salary negotiations?
I think the biggest change is the actual salaries and the compensation. Right. The war on talent out there is at an absolute premium. And I cast my mind back to when I first started in recruitment, and candidates would look to move for a role for £1,000 or £2,000. Now it's 10,000 as a minimum. Right. We can blame cost of living. We can blame higher-rised tax implications that we all have. Yeah. We can blame our electricity and our gas bills. Yeah. Okay, but fundamentally, people aren't moving to do the same job just for a little bit more money. So those people in particular, they're moving because they can price themselves as a specialist for the role they're applying, but they want a noticeable improvement to be able to transition from their current employers to the new firm.
And you haven't seen that change, since there's been a bit of a broader downturn in financial services hiring. You haven't seen that really impact expectations from the candidate side.
Oh no, expectations from the candidate is they all think that they can get it. Okay. And because their mate who they sat next to, who wasn't probably performing as well, has now done a move and seen a noticeable improvement on their earnings. Yeah. Since the COVID pandemic, we've had quite an aggressive amount of hiring in the financial services world. I think where businesses theoretically stagnated through that couple of year period in 2020, 2021, that period was all about making sure the mental health and the well-being of your employees and staff are there and maintained. Whereas now people are like, okay, I've been loyal, I've got through that. Now I need to think about my career again, and that's not, it's very cyclical. As soon as one person moves, you have to replace them, and that just keeps going. Yeah. But it hasn't stopped for the last couple of years. So I think when it comes to actually negotiating the salaries, I think you have to be transparent. Yeah. You need to make sure, when you're talking to a candidate, you need to understand whether their motivation is financial. Yeah. And there is always going to be a parent out there whose prices have gone up, and they need to negotiate more money just to be able to sustain and support their family life at home. That's fine. Just tell your recruiter, so at least you can understand what you're dealing with, and just make sure they're looking at roles within the budget that the client is willing to offer as well.
And have you seen any skills in particular that were, or skills or sectors where candidates are particularly in a strong position?
Definitely. So first of all, if you are a specialist in something, whether that be a generic asset class or a job or the industry as example, that's how you price yourself. That's how you maintain your earnings and how you can sell yourself. So if you are an SME, say in a product, maybe like a swanky structured derivative, and a business is looking to bring someone in with that knowledge and it's quite technical, you can price yourself for that. So then you have the negotiation barometer through the roof. However, as we're living in a very highly regulated world these days, so things like the obligations that every business has to adhere to, things like transaction reporting as an example, every business now needs to report their trades. Well, this wasn't in existence 5-7 years ago. So now every business has to do it, everyone now needs to hire it, and that again can help regulatory supportive opportunities in terms of how that will have a knock-on effect to negotiating your salary, because you need me almost. And then we need to look at sectors. So the hedge funds or the alternative sector are renowned for trying to hire the best in class. Your red brick university backgrounds, your very technical roles that you do, and if you want to bring those people into your house, you need to pay for them as well. So it's going on everywhere.
And do you see any shift? Can you predict any shifts happening over the next 6 months? Do you see any changes happening through 2024?
I think there's one big one,
Right.
real big one that we need to consider. So since the COVID pandemic, people have been working for love.
Yeah.
And they've still got their job.
Yeah.
2022 was the first year post-pandemic where people really felt they were starting to do their jobs again.
Yeah.
But businesses didn't pay bonuses last year because they were still living in the dream of the post-pandemic era that they're lucky to have a role. So 2023 sees the first real year where people have made a switch, they're thinking about their careers, they've got their head down, and they want to be compensated for the hard work that they've done for the year's work. So this first and second quarter, which is typically bonus season for the financial services sector, we're expecting a lot of volatility. This is the first period where, people are going to be seeing their first true bonus for what is now 4 or 5 years. And if people aren't going to get rewarded, that will obviously naturally start pushing people out the door. If people are rewarded, then it's going to question why they're going to stay or leave.
Yeah. Great. Thanks very much, James.